people to get up, because I feel that the young people in Pakistan, the youth of Pakistan has already decided. It's not that it's deciding, it has already decided that it wants to change. And they have already decided that the party for change is Tehreek Insaf. And I, as someone who probably the only politician who's moving around in Pakistan, because as you know, most of the other politicians are now bunkered in. They can't get out because of the fear of fear which this war on terror has, the message it has sent to all politicians, petrified of being bombed. So as someone who has now been in the public for these past 3 years, and specifically in the last year, I already see this change. And I see nothing in Pakistan, none of these political parties can now stop this process of change. This is the young people of this country, which are 70% of Pakistanis are below the age of 30. 70% below the age of 30. And if you go in Pakistan today to universities, colleges, schools, already they have made up their mind. And that's where my optimism stems from, because I now know that the old political parties do not have any cards left. There's nothing they can do to reverse this. The only way they can reverse this big tsunami that is going to sweep Pakistan is by performing. But they're all in power now. And one thing Asif Zardari, the biggest favor he has done to us Pakistanis, is that he's exposed all the political forces in this country. He's basically bought all of them. He started from the premise that all politicians have a price, or all crooked politicians have a price, and he co-opted all of them. And so as the country and the economy sinks, so have all the political parties sunk with him. He's taken them down with him. And the only party that is now, if you look at it most, the only party which is going up is Tehreek Insaf. All the other parties are going down. And as I said, the only way they can reverse this is by suddenly performing. But I'm afraid there is a total institutional collapse in Pakistan. There's nothing they can do now to stop this process of change. And finally, what has really sparked off this process of change is the most vibrant, independent media, specifically television. Television has changed Pakistan. The level of political awareness in Pakistan is unprecedented. The most popular programs are current affair programs. So every evening, there are about 6 current affair programs that are constantly informing the public about the situation and about the politics and the politicians. And so therefore, in my opinion, the next elections, where you will see a bigger change, then there was a big wave in 1970 by Zulfikar Ali Bhutto. I see a bigger change coming in the coming elections next year.
You pointed out that 70% of Pakistanis are young people, and they face a great deal of misrule, corruption, lack of jobs, inflation. These are all factors that have combined in other parts of the world this year to create revolution. Spring uprisings in Europe, and now here in the United States. Why has there not been a Pakistani split?
You see, there was already a Pakistani equivalent to the Arab Spring actually happened, what was then called the Lawyers' Movement. That was our Arab Spring. Unfortunately, that was hijacked. As you will see these Middle Eastern revolutions being hijacked, there's counter-revolution already taking place in some of the countries. Ours was, as we were moving towards a genuine democracy, unfortunately we were hijacked by one of the political parties. They joined us, and then all of us ended up boycotting the elections, saying that these elections were managed, there were people rigging in that, the Chief Justice was in a house arrest. How could you have an election when the media was muzzled, political party workers were in jail? And unfortunately, at the last minute, PMLN ended up going into the elections and destroyed this movement. Then again, this movement started behind the Chief Justice in what was called the Long March, which was, again, the whole public joined in. And again, this political party did a deal and came back halfway through from Islamabad, and again the whole movement collapsed. But this time, I'm afraid, as the political party itself has got exposed, now what you will see, that unlike the Middle East, we are probably a country which actually has now a political party to lead this. In the Middle East, the problem is it's a civil society coming out, but there's no clear leadership. In Pakistan today, Tehreek-e-Insaf is giving that leadership. So, which stands for a movement for change. So we are actually ahead of the Middle East. Secondly, our media is way ahead of the Middle East. In the Middle East, it was the social media that is what created awareness. In Pakistan, we actually have a very vibrant print and television, electronic media, which is constantly informing the public about what's happening.
When I last met you, it was in Washington 2 years ago, you were already expressing quite a lot of alarm about the nature of American-Pakistani relations, and you were concerned that American policy executed in Afghanistan and in Pakistan was putting an enormous strain on Pakistan, but also sort of threatening the core of this relationship. And now from reading your book, I get the impression, if I'm reading it right, that you feel that has come to pass, that the damage is now quite substantial, maybe irreparable. Am I reading that right?
Well, look, I opposed this war on terror from day one, because it was as if the Bush administration had decided they were fighting some conventional war. A war on terror is, you win the war when you win the people over to your side. It's essentially a war of winning the hearts and minds of people and isolating the terrorists. Now, this nightmare which unfolded in Afghanistan and Pakistan was clearly it was all for losing hearts and minds. So they were never going to win this war. It was so obvious to anyone who was watching. Now, the reason why from day one I opposed this war, because I'm probably the only Pakistani who has traveled all over the tribal area. I did it 20 years ago. I wrote a travel book called The Warrior Ring. Then throughout the tribal agencies I've been there. And in this book I've written that this was the ultimate warrior race in the sense that every man is a warrior. Because I have, my passion for shooting. And because they knew I would shoot, everywhere I went I was challenged to shooting matches and traveling. And 14-year-old boys would be able to shoot, as well as anyone. So here was and I'm talking now specifically of the tribal area of Pakistan. Now, there are about 1 million armed men in our tribal areas. 1 million armed men. Now, it was so obvious that if some Al-Qaeda had come from Pura into Pakistan, clearly the way to win this war was to use these 1 million armed men who had always stood by Pakistan to isolate the terrorists. And in the beginning, 240 Al-Qaeda were handed over to the Pakistan army by the tribal people, the tribals. But what General Musharraf did was, for me, the biggest blunder in Pakistan. Under American pressure, Americans knew nothing about the tribal area. But at least the Pakistan government should have. Under American pressure, in 2004, they sent the Pakistan army into the tribal area. And what they did was the most insane and immoral way of fighting a war on terror is they started bombing villages with artillery, with helicopter guns, with F-16s. 2 years of this insane collateral damage created the Pakistan Taliban. We did not have any militant Taliban in Pakistan. In fact, this collateral damage through military operations, killing these weapons, and these people, rather than winning them over to our side, we actually began to push them over to the other side. And so what is the Pakistan Taliban? Basically our own tribal people. And behind this war was a web of deceit and lies every war is, as truth is the first casualty. But in this particular war, trying to make your own people swallow that they were actually killing their own people, they kept each time insisting that they were foreign militants they were killing.